Let me tell you something you might not want to hear. You're tired, not because life is hard, but because you're carrying too much weight, not physical weight, mental weight. Excuses. Every excuse you make, you carry it. Every justification, you load it onto your back. Every story about why you couldn't, why you didn't, why it wasn't the right time, that's weight, and it adds up. That's why you feel slow. That's why you feel drained. That's why even small tasks feel heavy. Excuses are heavy. Discipline is light. People think discipline is restrictive. They think it's exhausting. They think it takes energy. Wrong. Indecision drains energy. Negotiation drains energy. Excuses drain energy. Discipline simplifies. Discipline clears the load. Discipline removes the weight. When you wake up and immediately start negotiating, should I train? Do I feel like it? Can I do it later? You've already put weight on your back. Strong people don't carry excuses. They carry responsibility, and responsibility, done right, is lighter than excuses will ever be. So if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel burned out, if you feel stuck, it's not because you're doing too much. It's because you're carrying the wrong things. Drop the excuses. Why were Albo is tired? Most people say they're exhausted. They blame work. They blame stress. They blame life. But watch them closely. They're not exhausted from effort. They're exhausted from avoidance, avoiding decisions, avoiding discomfort, avoiding responsibility. Every time you avoid the work, your brain stays active, running scenarios, creating excuses, justifying delay. That mental noise is heavy. Excuses force you to remember lies. Discipline only requires truth. When you say, I'll do it tomorrow, your mind doesn't rest. It knows you're lying. That internal conflict drains you. Excuses are heavy because they multiply. One excuse requires another to support it. Discipline ends the conversation. I train today. I execute now. I handle it. Simple, clean, light. That's why disciplined people seem calm. They're not better than you. They're just not carrying excuses. EXUSSDRA and steer on GH. Let's talk physical. You walk into the gym already tired. Why? Because before you even touched a weight, you debated whether to be there. You argue with yourself in the car. You negotiated during warm-ups. You planned how early you could leave. That's weight. Every excuse you carry steals strength from the rep in front of you. The strongest people in the room aren't always the most gifted. They're the most decided. They don't feel. How do I feel? They ask, what's the work? And they do it. Excuses don't just affect workouts. They affect careers, relationships, leadership. A leader who explains instead of executes loses authority. A man who justifies instead of improves loses respect, especially his own. No excuses. Start now. GHT, here's the paradox. Responsibility feels heavy until you accept it. Once you own it fully, it gets lighter. Because ownership eliminates victimhood. No more, they didn't give me a chance. No one helped me. I wasn't fair. Fair doesn't matter. Chance doesn't matter. What matters is what you do now. Excuses keep you looking backward. Responsibility forces you forward. Forward motion reduces mental load. That's why ownership feels freeing. You stop carrying everyone else's behavior. You stop carrying the past. You stop carrying outcomes you can't control. You carry only the work. And work, honest work, is light. Said everyone tells themselves a story. The question is whether it makes you stronger or weaker. Excuse-based stories sound like this. I'm just not built for that. I've always struggled with discipline. That's just how I am. Those stories weigh a ton. Because once you believe them, you stop trying. Strong people tell different stories. I can improve. I'll figure it out. I don't quit. Those stories don't feel dramatic, but they remove weight. You don't need a heroic story. You need an honest one. I didn't do the work, so I will. That's it. DSC plan removis by GHT. People think discipline makes life harder. They're wrong. Discipline front loads the effort, so the rest of life gets lighter. When you train consistently, your body feels capable. When you work consistently, your mind feels calm. When you execute consistently, your confidence stabilizes. Excuses do the opposite. They delay pain and multiply it later. Discipline hurts once. Excuses hurt forever. Pick your pain. KRITHE low 80, you're going to carry something in this life. Pain or pride, work or regret, discipline or excuses. One makes you stronger. The other makes everything heavier. Drop what doesn't serve you. EXUS MeltIPL Y and DR press UR. Here's what happens when pressure shows up. Deadlines, responsibility, failure, pain. Strong people simplify under pressure. Weak people explain. And explanations are heavy. When pressure hits, excuses don't disappear. They multiply. One excuse turns into 10. One justification needs backup. One lie needs protection. And now you're not just carrying the problem. You're carrying the story about the problem. That's why pressure feels unbearable to some people. They're not dealing with reality. They're dragging excuses behind them like chains. Built people do the opposite. They drop the story. They drop the explanation. They drop the emotion. They ask one question: what's the next action? That question removes weight instantly. No drama, no self-pity, no delay, just movement. That's strength. Calm far ADITIO, and let's call it what it is. Most excuses exist to protect comfort. Comfort from effort, comfort from embarrassment, comfort from responsibility, comfort from failure. But comfort is addictive. And like any addiction, it demands more over time. What felt uncomfortable last year feels impossible now. What you used to handle easily now drains you. Why? Because you trained yourself to avoid resistance. Excuses are the drug, comfort is the payoff, and the bill always comes due. Life doesn't care about your comfort level, it applies pressure anyway. Earned strength handles pressure. Comfort, trained weakness collapses. You don't break the addiction by talking about it, you break it by doing hard things on purpose. Early mornings, hard workouts, uncomfortable conversations, focus work, that's the detox. No excuses, start now. DONOTEXPLAINXEQT. This one rule will change your life. Stop explaining. Start executing. You don't owe anyone an explanation, especially not yourself. Every time you explain why you didn't do something, you reinforce weakness. Strong people don't explain misses. They correct them. They don't say, I was tired, I was busy, I wasn't feeling it. They say, not acceptable. And they fix it. That's leadership. Over yourself first. Excuses keep you talking. Execution keeps you moving. And movement solves problems faster than words ever will. Execute. Stead R's ELIMNA EXQSS. If your life runs on motivation, excuses will win. Motivation is emotional. Standards are mechanical. Standards don't care how you feel. They care what gets done. Earned strength comes from non-negotiables. You train when scheduled, you work. When it's time, you rest only after execution. No debates. No excuses. When standards are clear, excuses have nowhere to hide. That's why disciplined people don't feel overwhelmed. They remove decisions. Decision fatigue is heavy. Standards are light. Set them. Live by them. Ideonti ovar philangis. This is the final shift. You don't act based on feelings. You act based on identity. Excuse-driven people ask, how do I feel today? Disciplined people ask, who am I? And then they behave accordingly. If your identity is, I'm disciplined, then excuses don't make sense anymore. They don't fit the self-image. You don't need hype. You don't need anger. You don't need motivation. You need alignment. Behavior aligned with identity feels clean. Misalignment feels heavy. That's why excuses feel exhausting. Your body knows you're lying. Dear IGHT, listen carefully. You've been carrying things you don't need. Stories, justifications, reasons, excuses, and you've been wondering why everything feels so hard. Drop them. Drop the explanation. Drop the delay. Drop the comfort. Keep only what matters, the work, the standard. The next action. Excuses are heavy. Discipline is light. One drags you down. The other sets you free. You don't need more energy. You don't need more time. You don't need better circumstances. You need fewer excuses. So stand up. Square your shoulders. Handle what's in front of you. No speeches. No stories. No delays. Just action. A&D Movie.